Agenda today, CPO 2020-80, an ordinance of the Gary Common Council of the City of Gary providing for a hearing and public comments on the transfer sale of certain property formerly owned by the GUEA, sponsored by H.A. Bentner Redevelopment Department. We also have CPO 2021-55, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Bianca Jones, 4133 East 11th Avenue, Gary, Indiana, 46403. Property 4133 East 11th Avenue, Gary, Indiana, 46403. Our last one for tonight is CPO 2021-56, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Bianca Jones, 1324 East 39th Avenue, Gary, Indiana, 46409. Property 1324 East 39th Avenue, Gary, Indiana, 46408. Tonight we have before us our council president, councilman of the first district, Council William Godwin, our second district councilperson, I'm sure he's still on, Cozy Witherspoon, he was with us, our councilwoman of the third district, Councilwoman Mary Brown, our vice president, councilwoman of the fourth district, Councilwoman Ty Atkins, our fifth district councilwoman, Councilwoman Linda Barnes Caldwell of the fifth district. We also have joining our councilman at large, Councilman Gloria Slay, and Councilman at large, Councilman Mike Brown. At this time, I would like to take out of order CPO 2021-55. We also have the city attorney, Mr. Jenkins, is on, Mr. Boyer over zoning, and trying to see if we missed anyone. And Mr. Bittner is also on too from redevelopment. So we will start at CPO 2021-55 at this time.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
The petitioner is Bianca Jones. The owner of the property is Albert Fondren. We have a signed notarized letter from the owner granting the petitioner, Bianca Jones, permission to request a variance on the property. The affected real estate is 4133 East 11th Avenue. The zoning of that property is R2, and the petitioner is looking to use a residential property as transitional housing, and thus is requesting a use variance. The staff recommendation is that prior to getting to the use variance criteria, there needs to be a demonstrated hardship as a feature of the property to justify the use variance. We do not see that currently, and I've copied here on page 1 the hardship criteria for use variance. And one of these is basically number 3, if you're using to use a residential property for something that can be permitted by right in, let's say, a business district, and you just want to use the residential property as such, we believe that you create the hardship. The difficulty is raised by the petitioner. So that was the staff recommendation, was that hardship criteria was not met. We received no neighbor notice, and no neighbor participated in the public hearing at the BZA to oppose the petition either. The findings were that from the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, that this would be a transitional house for veterans, families, and individuals recovering from alcohol and drug use. It will be a non-medical transitional home. They intend to use intake and discharge forms provided by the state. Employees hired will need to pass a background check. This home will serve no more than 8 males and females. Clients can be there for up to 2 years. The petitioner is currently looking for grants as a funding source and anticipates being licensed within 60 days if approved by the Common Council. Then we'll continue to look for funding. The property is currently not occupied, but it is habitable. BZA voted to adopt staff recommendation and thus forwarded the petition to the Common Council with an unfavorable recommendation based on the criteria that hardship was not met.
Ms. Boyer, is the petitioner on also?
She is. She's muted.
Okay.
There we go.
Good evening, Ms. Jones. Councilman Brewer, can you tell us exactly what you want to do with this home here?
Okay, good afternoon. Now the home, it is a transitional home. It's going to provide a family-friendly environment for families, veterans. It's not going to be a recovery house because you do need to be licensed with the state, and you have to have hours of training for that. So it's not going to be a recovery house, but just for veterans, the elderly, disabled, anybody that's in need of housing. It will be for up to 2 years. Also, the families will have it'll be 24-hour supervision. It will provide meals, and it has a laundry facility on the property, it has a play area, it has plenty of parking in the front and the back. We will provide some supportive services, how to create a resume, how to prepare for the job interviews, some financial management, help them find additional housing, and also to help assist with employment. I know one of the questions before they asked, did I have any training? So I do have some background in business, not education-wise. I'm a teacher by trade. I've been a teacher for 22 years. So I do have some knowledge of how to create a resume, have computer skills. And so also, I think I covered, I definitely am going to apply for a 501c3. I'm in the middle of that now. And so I had researched some grants this summer, and they had quite a few grants, but you definitely do need to be approved or have a business license to even be eligible for some of those grants. And then also North Indiana Community Action have been trying to work with me, and I've been trying to help them provide housing with some landlords that I know were taking individuals that might be unemployed, because a lot of landlords, it's hard to find housing if you're not employed for at least 2 years, sometimes 3. So they are one of the people that will be working with me. Home Away from Home, she has a business in Valpo dealing with helping elderly, and sometimes when she's full, she's looking for places to assist or provide temporary housing as well. So it's a lot of people out there that definitely need semi-permanent housing until they can get a more permanent housing. In this house here, it was once abandoned home, so that would definitely be something nice to provide housing in a home that was once abandoned for several years. And it's close to my heart. When I was younger, I experienced homelessness, and older husband and wife took me in. for a few months during my 10th grade year so that I could finish school, and then I was going to move with family later.
So, Ms. Jones, how many people that you say that you will be occupying here for our servicing?
About 8.
About 8.
Yes.
And how many workers will you have there?
Probably, it depends. I don't know if I'm gonna do it 12 hours and have 2 workers, work 2 shifts, or do 3 workers, 8, 3 shifts.
Okay.
I think I'm looking to the 12-hour shift.
How many bedrooms is in this residence?
3. A nice large kitchen, family room, laundry facility, a garage for storage.
So I'm looking at your parking structure here. It looks like pretty much only 3 cars can get into the driveway. Are these residents will have cars, or how would be that means of transportation?
It is a place where I can put in additional parking, but that's something I would have to apply for too. I can extend it, and also in the back, it's a place for additional parking. It's a very, very large yard.
Oh, so you're speaking of parking, turning the backyard into a parking lot, parking space?
No, not the entire backyard. It's a portion that you can park towards the end of the backyard. I definitely want to keep it for a play area.
So what about any conversation with any neighbors? I see there is one neighbor, look like next door there, or is that abandoned structure there?
You said
Have you had any conversation with any of the neighbors? What you petitioned to do?
no, I did mention it that I wanted to put a business there, but I didn't tell them in detail.
Okay, all right. I'll open up to the council at this time. Any council members that have any questions at this time? Councilwoman Caldwell?
I thought you said there was no neighbors or that they didn't object.
Are you on?
Can you hear me now?
No, I can't.
I thought Mr. Boring had said that no one objected or there was no neighbors. That's what he said.
Mr. Boyer, can you repeat what you said about there's no neighbors or no objection? That was Councilwoman Caldwell's question.
We did not receive any letters from neighbors regarding this petition.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Ngao, Council President.
thank you. Are we still only sending out letters 100 feet radius?
Yeah, that's correct. Those
Okay.
are the rules and regulations for the BZA for 2021.
So that's something that they voted on. Is that a policy decision?
It's a policy decision that we reduced 400 feet to 100 feet and added a sign.
So the challenge I have with that, and it's nothing against you, Ms. Fundren, but internally, we have to look at each of these neighborhoods differently. Some are more dense than others, and 100 feet is not that far. And we know when you look at a block where you might, in some areas, have only 3 people or 4 people on a block, they might be on opposite ends of it and might barely be touched by this. But the moment the daycare opens and we get the complaints, right, or people say there's too many or what have you. So I just really want to publicly ask that you all reevaluate that policy citywide. I just don't think the coverage is sufficient enough. Given, if we were in a more urban, dense environment where you had townhomes and a lot of apartment buildings, that'd be one thing. But with single family homes across Brock, so we know that oftentimes the home next door may be vacant or abandoned, I don't think we're adequately covering the residents to come to an opinion about what residents think. But thank you, Ms. Fundren, for starting a business. What do you sense the demand is in the area for this service?
Oh, it's definitely a demand. I have did some management for some landlords, and I've assisted to try to find housing for families that did not have jobs or didn't have employment. So I just recently had a relative that I helped tenant. She kind of took them in until they were able to find some permanent housing. So it's definitely a need for it. Also with the North West Indiana Commission action, young lady calls me all the time, where it's veterans that might be in the hotel and they only allowed to stay a couple of weeks at a time. And so they're constantly looking for housing for individuals as well. So it's definitely a need.
Okay. So, and I really don't like asking these questions over the public, but will you be residing at either of these? You may have already said it. I see you have 2 locations here.
Yes, that's why I applied for the variance, because if you, I guess the special use, you have to live on the property. And then if I lived there and decided to move, then I would have to start this process all over again. So I said it's probably best just to do the variance.
Okay. And I think Councilman Brewer alluded to it, but have you talked to any neighbors?
I'm in the area quite a bit. It's quite a bit of abandoned homes in that area, and it's a lot of older families there. It's a very quiet neighborhood, so it definitely would be a nice place for families at the 1324 East 39th Avenue. Definitely be nice for families with kids. It's kids in the area. I work in a local school in that district, so I do know a lot of the kids that's in the area.
What school is that?
I work at Glen Park Academy.
Okay. Well, that's for the 39th Avenue location.
Yes, that's the 39th Avenue location.
Okay.
And then the 4133 East 11th Avenue, yes, it's a lot of abandoned homes in that area as well. So it's not a school over there, so I probably would maybe gear towards individuals or veterans, but I'm not going to discriminate if families want to live there. It's a school, but not, they would have to be bused. It's not as close.
Let me make sure I'm clear. So what exactly is the use for the 11th Avenue property?
Both of them are the same transitional house that's just going to provide housing, not a recovery house.
And how many in each house?
1324 East 39th would be 8. 4133 East 11th, maybe about 6. Or it may be less. That one is a 2-bedroom, so it might be even less. But it does have a basement. It has a long driveway, has a garage for storage, a nice kitchen, living room. The 1324 is much bigger, so that's why I can house much more.
Okay, so are you anticipating, so if there's 2 bedrooms, I'm looking at your diagram here, how many folks do you, how would you apportion 6 people?
You know what, that one, I'm gonna say probably about 4 individuals. I'm gonna leave that because that one's a 2-bedroom.
Okay, so would it be unisex, or obviously it'd be families, it'd be men and women, children, all in the same place?
I believe, you know what, I think I'm gonna keep the families near the school. So 1324, if they have kids, East 39, because that's close to the school. And then maybe the 4133, maybe that's individual men and women, or, you know, veterans, anyone, even the elderly.
So with each person, so if you have 2 bedrooms and a basement, is the idea that each person would have their own room, and then in the basement might be like a kind of like a barracks almost with multiple beds set up? Or
No, I don't think I'm gonna use the basement because for safety reasons, I think you would need probably 2 entrances in a basement. I'm thinking. So I wouldn't use that to for sleeping quarters. 2 to a room, 2 beds per room, and for the 4133 East 11. But the East 39, that's a flat.
Okay, and these bedrooms, would it be men only in one room and women only in the other, or?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Just lastly, are you familiar with the Edna Manor Revitalization Program?
No, but I can definitely look into it.
Okay. And I'm not saying you need their approval by any means, but I would like for you to speak with someone from that organization and let them know what you're considering doing and to get their feedback. One of the challenges we have in the world of Zoom is that it's a little difficult sometimes for community members to know what's going on. And so they feel like we make decisions like was made at our council meeting before the last that affected Edna, where they hadn't properly had a chance as a community to know what was going on and express their concerns about developments this body approves. So if you could, please reach out to her. Again, their opinion does not inform my decision, but I think it's important for key community stakeholders to be aware of what's happening.
And who is in charge, you know?
I will ensure you get the contact information.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And that's just as it relates to 11th Avenue, and that's in my district. Thank you.
Any other council member at this time? Councilman Lay, come on up. You still muted. You still muted. You still muted. Star 6. There you go.
Good afternoon. This is Gloria Slade speaking. You seem to have a lot of people in a very small space. I didn't follow some of your answers. One, did you indicate you would not be living in any of these properties?
Yes, I will not be living on the property, but I will have 24-hour supervision.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Repeat what you just said.
I will not be living on the properties, but I will have 24-hour supervision.
But I'm not figuring out.
It's a little muffled.
Can you hear everything now?
Not really. So let's take them one at a time. You indicated it would be 6 people in one property. What address was that property?
I didn't. You said how many people at what property?
Give us 1 minute there.
You sort of going in and out on me. There's probably something wrong with you. Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
I can hear you a little bit now, much better.
I can hear you better too.
Okay, you said the 1324 East 39th can house about 8 comfortably. 4133 East.
Well, no, let's go mix them here for a moment.
Okay, that's fine. You go.
But you only have 3 bedrooms, right?
You going in and out again.
Use your phone now.
Okay, I'm trying to use my phone. Can you hear me?
Much better now. Okay.
Okay, you indicated you would have 8 people, but you only had 3 bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Explain this setup.
That particular house has very large bedrooms. It's a nice size home. And 1 bedroom is very long, so it can fit 4, and the other 2 bedrooms can fit only 2 in each one. 2 beds.
Other than the council, do you need approval from some other source, like the Veterans Administration?
No. I checked with the state, and if it was a recovery house, yes, I would need a license and several hours of training if you're using it as a recovery house.
Well, what are you calling what you're doing?
I'm just providing housing and providing services that will help them find employment, find more permanent housing. This is temporary, and help assist them in finding permanent housing and giving them a place to stay if they don't have anywhere to go. Once you leave the hotel, they need to have somewhere to go. And so it's providing them a space, a home environment, and not a shelter. It's an actual home that they can come and have a nice backyard. They can play with the kids. They cook in a nice sized kitchen and cook in the kitchen. So it's a little different than a shelter. They can actually have a home to live in until they find their own permanent house, which we can
Well, how long is temporary?
up to 2 years. So
Oh, 2 years. 2 years is temporary. What's your source of payment for these people?
I'm going to, well, this is the first step to get approved. And then after that, I plan to, in the process of working on my 501c3. And then also I'm apply for some grants. I could have applied this summer, but I wasn't approved, and my 501c3 wasn't quite finished. So that's going to be the first source. Local churches, also this West Indiana Community Action, they provide funding as well to house individuals.
But that would require 501c3.
No, not with that one. That one doesn't, because they have contacted me several times to see if I can find some housing for some veterans they had in the hotel. And I wasn't able to find housing at the time. Sometimes I have people I know that will take individuals in if they don't have a job and kind of work with them. But at the time, they were full, so.
When do you anticipate the 501c3?
Well, that's a process, so I can't really put a timeline on that one, but I'm in the middle of working on it. I do know they don't really give you a timeline on that.
No, it's a very difficult process. Is an attorney working with you on it, or is this something you're doing?
Well, if you know of an attorney that will work with me on it,
No. I'm asking you, who's putting together the 501c3?
I'm working on it myself. I'm pretty good with paperwork, and I have a lot of favors, so I don't anticipate any problems. I'm going to work on it and get approved.
How are you incorporated in the state of Indiana?
Say it again.
Are you incorporated in the state of Indiana?
With the LLC?
Yes, is it incorporated? What you take? Why would you? Well, I won't even ask that question. Has this corporation been incorporated in the state of Indiana?
Yes, but I'm probably looking at, once I attain my 501c3, I'm gonna probably change it, because I'm probably gonna change it over later. But yes, I do have my LLC.
Okay, it says a limited liability corporation. I'm talking about the 501. In order to get the 501c3, you must be incorporated in the state of Indiana. You don't have a choice as a nonprofit.
Okay.
501c3 is tax exemption.
Yes.
Well, you may be a long way off. You wouldn't be able to just amend your state without pretty much going back to the federal government again. Well, what would happen if the council just delayed this, let's say, for a couple of months until you see where you are on this state incorporation, the 501c3?
Well, I probably lose the property because I can't hold on to it too much longer. I do have to make some moves.
Or it's not your property?
No.
No other questions.
So with that point there, with this not being your property, your letter that you gave to us, is that from the owner of the property?
Say it again. Yes,
The letter that you gave to us, is that from the owner of the property?
yes.
Okay, see, it wasn't notarized. We can deal with that also. Now, looking at the property, underneath your name as the petitioner, so it's listed like you live at this property. What, is this are you living at this address here now?
No.
Because I'm looking at this one, and also, what is your current address for the record? Wait a minute. What is your current address? Because you're listed here, this is like your current address, and then on the other ordinance here, it's listed with the next property address there.
When I put 208 Marshall Street. I
Okay,
didn't,
that's not on here. Okay. So,
yeah, with the notarized,
okay.
I gave with the paperwork that I submitted that was notarized.
I had redacted all personally identifiable information since the ordinance is a matter of public record.
Councilwoman Caldwell. Thanks. You doing star 6? Unmute.
I think she's I don't think she's a panelist. I don't think she's a panelist.
Hold on 1 minute.
Oh,
All right,
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
how are you screening these residents, people, citizens that you're bringing into the home?
I have an application that I downloaded off of the state, and it was the Indiana Housing and Community Development, and it's more like an intake and also a discharge form. So they provided a form. It was pretty detailed too.
So I understand, and I like the fact that you want to help, but aren't you just a little scared with these people that you just random people that you're getting? And I know that they put some information on the paper, but you know, I'm looking at, you're saying you may be able to put 6 people in this house. How comfortable are you with all those 6 different people in there? Oh, this family and then this stranger and that.
Well, I'm very comfortable because, I don't know if you were on, when I was younger, a lady took me in and she had several people in the home as well. And so, and she was comfortable. She didn't know me. She was comfortable. She knew my brother and she was comfortable taking me in. She let me stay a few months until I was able to move back to Indiana. And she fed me. She didn't charge me. I didn't have any money anyway. I was in high school, but so I'm very comfortable with it. And I work with a lot of landlords, and so tenants. You meet a variety of people, and so you know, I'm comfortable with it.
Okay. I was just curious. I was just sitting here listening.
Yeah, I have a heart for people, and that's why I'm getting my 501c3. I'm planning on starting a ministry. That's my plan.
Councilman Godwin.
All right.
Just following up on Councilman Caldwell's point, and I guess this led me to ask about whether it's going to be women and men, children, you know, kind of mixing. I do have, and I'm not an expert in this area, but I do have some concerns about kids being in the same, such a small space with grown men and women. that don't necessarily know each other and there's no one living there on the premises? I guess you said you're going to have security, but what does that, where will the security guard be?
You know what? The one home I was going to just have the families, and then the other home, individual men or women, or it could be all men or all women. I didn't want to seem like that was discriminating. I didn't want. I know what you're saying, but as far as with the kids, I would want to put the kids in one home with their mother, father, and in that particular home, it probably can only house maybe 1 or 2 families in the Aetna home, and then the 1324 maybe the individuals.
So I think you should probably take a, I'm sorry. I think you should probably take a look at maybe even the housing authority guidelines might be helpful. Typically, there's a certain amount of square footage per person. And so I suppose you're probably going to be getting federal and or state dollars maybe to support some of this. So it does seem like a lot of people, and I know these properties, they're not large. In a very small space, 1 bathroom. Most of these homes have 1 bathroom. So I just would be honestly concerned about having kids with non-family members also in the same vicinity. So I'd like to see this flushed out a little bit more about, you know, if it were going to be unisex or one maybe just for a family. I understand you need to multiply the number of people in order to increase the revenue out of each property. But I think given the size of these, there are health and safety concerns, and maybe even some, you might find in your own research, there's probably going to be some square footage requirements per person. You can't have, you know, 8 people, 6 people in an 800 square foot home and get dollars for them. So I know even with some of the foster care programs, you have to have so much space in your home for a child. So just something to keep in mind.
Any other council members have any questions? Just like to go back to Mr. Boyer, what you said earlier about this not being, I don't believe it came up with a recommendation about as far as the use inside of this area here. Can you speak a little bit more on that for us?
Yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen. On page 1 of the packet that you received, there's a requirement for a hardship. If you're requesting a use variance, there has to be some particular aspect of the property that creates a hardship that would justify the request for a use variance. And the reason this is in is because basically we want residential to be in residential zone districts, and we want businesses to be in business zone districts. So unless there's something specific about this property, or if there's a something unique that can justify a residential property being used as a business, then the municipal code is, I think, pretty clear on the hardship requirement here. And like, if you think about it, like if there's a entire row of streets that's all business and one of those parcels is residential, then you have more of a argument for that to be a business run as a business. But this property is a residential property in the middle of a residential area, so I do not see the hardship there.
Any other questions from any other council members? We'll end this one here. I'll take it for the council for third and final on August 17th. We will go to the next one, CPO 2021-56.
So I remind that each petition stands on its own merit. The petitioner, the owner, the intended use of the property is the same as the other one. The property is also zoned R2. So we already went through the same findings, the same determination from the BZA, the same staff recommendation. So maybe it's useful to look at the zoning of this parcel here on the shared screen. It's residential in the middle of a residential neighborhood. So even though they are evaluated independently, we come to the same conclusion that we do not see a demonstrated hardship.
Question, council members. So I'm looking at I think this is the GIS map here. Is this the house next door to, there's a bunch of trees here? Yes, on the screen now.
That's,
Which one is the house that we're talking about? We're talking about the one that's covered in the trees? Is this the house that we're talking about using?
well, I had a more up-to-date picture so you can see it, but that's an old picture.
Yeah, let me see if I can find that. I think I had it in here.
Okay, that's the one that's in our packet. It is. And this property here also, Ms. Boyd is looking for that. This is also a rented property also?
Yes.
And the same stipulations is apply to this one too. Upon approval, you'll be able to move forward. So this is a 3-bedroom here. And see, I still have great concerns with this one with parking too on this one.
Yeah, on the right side, it has a space where you can add additional parking. And then also in the back, this was the home I was speaking of.
You keep requiring to the back. This is a residential neighborhood. I don't believe anyone parks in the back unless they have a garage there.
I was thinking if you can put, well, I don't know if this, if I'll get approved for that, but like put a parking pad. Because I know some homes across the street, they have like a parking pad in the back. And it doesn't take up the entire yard, just a portion.
And Mr. Boyd, in your opinion, your use for this type of business should be in a business district?
Yeah, I think that is what the municipal code encourages, is that business properties are in business districts. But there's some justification for otherwise.
Okay. Councilman Godwin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Petitioner, you have a lease on both of these properties? I know we're dealing with 30 Glen Park. You have a lease, right? Are you in a lease currently?
I will be in a lease.
Okay, so you haven't already obligated yourself to these parcels.
But I have a limited amount of time, but I will have a lease.
Okay, so I suppose you have a letter of intent or something of the sorts. So what amount of time are you anticipating? You're talking about making capital improvements. I mean, are you thinking a 5-year, 10-year lease? What are you thinking about? So how long of a lease would you be signing, or do you anticipate signing?
I will anticipate maybe purchasing the property, probably leasing it at first, but with the intent to buy.
So I guess I'd ask, what's the urgency? You're not currently in the lease, but you're afraid that the landlord is going to lease the property to someone else?
He definitely is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is either property, the pictures on the outside only tell us so much, but is either property habitable?
This particular one, 1324 East 39th, not at this time, but the boards up there is just to protect the windows. But it's ready to be habitable. The Etna home, 4133, that one is, but the tenant is moving out. So I want to say the tenant to be out within 30 days. And then, you know, got to go in and do some cleaning or whatever. So I had a little more time with the Etna.
So I would think, and my colleagues can correct me if I'm wrong, and Mr. Boria certainly as well, typically you want to already be in a letter of intent or a lease with some kind of contingency if you're getting various zoning approvals, because you don't own either of these properties, right? And so we're considering making these changes to our zoning rules. And I just think that this doesn't seem firmed up enough on your end in terms of your relationship with either of these properties.
I submitted a letter of intent from the landlord, and he signed it, and it was notarized. That was in the packet.
Okay. So he knows that you're here asking to change the use of his property?
Yes.
Okay. But he's also entertaining other tenants.
Well, if I'm not able to use it, you know, he's gonna have to probably do something else with it.
The one we have is not notarized, but maybe.
It was with the application I did for both properties.
Okay. Mr. Boria, you have the notarized version?
I believe I do.
Okay. Yeah, I just, here's the deal. I think there's a lot of real estate in the area that could be used for these purposes, if that's what you'd like to do. I don't think that this body should rush to approve anything, because there's, to me, a lot of questions about the use itself, about who the occupants would be, the age group, the sex, the amount of people given the amount of space. I just think there's a lot of questions that we shouldn't be rushed, given that if you're already in a lease, right, or if you personally own the property already and you're paying a mortgage or paying rent, I could certainly understand some level of urgency. But to me, we need much more information than what we've been given. But ultimately, that'll be the decision of this body. Thank you.
Councilman Lay?
I sort of agree pretty much.
I think you're muted.
I'm sorry.
I think you're muted. Yes, you are. Star 6. There you go.
Okay, Mr. Jones, I pretty much agree with what Mr. Godwin said. What other problem I have? When is the last time these two properties was occupied? They don't appear that no one has lived in them for some time.
The one in Etna is occupied now. They will be moving out within the next 30 days. This one here is not occupied. It just looked that way because of the boards on the windows, but it's a very nice home. And at the time, it was raining, so it hadn't had a grass cut.
So the same person owns both properties?
Yes, and actually, some additional properties in the area for 1324 East 39.
But I'm saying these both properties are owned currently by the same person.
Yes.
Well, it would seem to me, one thing you would cause me a whole lot of concern with this 501c and this LLC. I'm not sure. I've never seen anybody try to mix it, because the LLC, you're limiting your liability. You wouldn't have to limit your liability on a not-for-profit unless you were violating the law in some way.
But no, I'm gonna start out.
I pretty much agree with Mr. Godwin. It seems to be, and I do represent people, part of representative government. So I absolutely have to be concerned about people there. Your concept, I support. Again, I'm having really a problem supporting this project where you are. You seem to have done very little at this point. And you said you somehow going to change the LLC. Once you get to 501c3, you will find that you won't be able to do that with ease, because that's the foundation for the 501c3. So I wish you good luck on this. I certainly will. I'm just simply really having problems trying to be straightforward with you on this. Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, I have no other questions.
Well,
Okay.
currently,
Any other council members at this time? Okay, Ms. Jones, you can go ahead.
currently is I have an LLC, and I said down the line I was thinking of using the 501c3, but if I have some trouble, then I would just use that for a different property. But I definitely will seek a lawyer before I mix the two. You gave me some good advice, so I'm definitely going to take that before I make any major decisions mixing the 501c3 with the LLC. But I still can apply for the 501c3. Maybe I just do it somewhere else.
Okay. Ms. Jones, I'm going to take this before the full body on August the 17th at 6 p.m. and we will vote on it on third and final, and we will go from there. So you will need to be present. So if there's any other question that may come up, you can answer those questions there. We will go to our last and final ordinance, CPO 2020-80 at this time.
Okay, I can give the overview. This is the GUEA ordinance. This is before us again to discuss the transfer, the disposition of several properties associated with it. Council members, you may be familiar with the fact that there is an agreement in place between the City of Gary, Redevelopment Commission, and the Office of the Attorney General that governs how we are to dispose of these properties. That's why we brought it back here now at this time. Pursuant to that agreement, we're required to give 30 days notice to several parties, the Office of the Attorney General, the Regional Development Authority, and a number of other parties, in addition to publication within a paper within the city and one county paper, to give 30 days notice for this. And pursuant to that agreement, we're also supposed to have this hearing before the Common Council. Pursuant to that, we wanted to get a date certain for this hearing, so that before we sent out any notices or anything like that. Given the time frame today, if we were to select a meeting that would give us enough time to also satisfy the 30-day notice requirement, we would choose the council date of September 21st, if possible. This is normally where I would turn it over. I'm sorry, say that again. I'm sorry.
Let me just stop you right there. You know, before this came before, this is CPO 2020-80. The council had put some criteria that we wanted to have come before us before we moved any further with this. Tonight we don't have anything before us, and I guess we're just going to have a discussion tonight. but the council asked that you would bring these properties before us in groups of 50. We
Okay.
could have had it done a long time ago, but the administration did not move, did not bring the council anything. So therefore, this has been sitting table up until now. I don't know if you all are going to conform to that, or you all looking to do something different, but that's what the council had proposed, that we do these in 50s. I believe it was over 600 properties that we were
Yes.
talking about disposing. So where are we at with that part first?
Okay, I did send notice. It's relatively late, but we finished a list of about 50 that I sent to the members of the planning committee tonight. So I sent that to yourself, Councilman Brewer, Councilwoman Atkins, and Councilwoman Brown. That was an email earlier this afternoon.
Okay, I didn't
I don't
see
think
it.
you have the correct members of the Planning and Development Committee.
Oh, sorry. I hope I sent it to the right people.
It's
Sorry.
only difference is me as opposed to Councilman Brown.
Oh, okay. I'm terribly sorry about that.
If you send it, so please send it to me too.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Chair,
Councilwoman Atkins.
I did look at the document briefly. We got it at 4:30. I just had a question. I don't know if I'm missing it, but I didn't see the list of the specific properties. Which was attached was the agreement from I think it was from
Right.
2005.
Right. There were two separate emails sent out to the parties I mentioned, right? So there's an earlier email that lists the parcels. What you're looking at is the agreement itself to the
Okay.
agreement between the City of Gary, RDC, and the Office of Attorney General.
Got it. So it's the 2:00 email.
Yes.
Okay, my bad.
Oh, it's no problem.
Councilwoman
So,
Atkins,
yes, sir.
can you include all council members on this?
Yeah, I can forward that to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is my first time seeing this also.
I'm sorry for the late notice. That is my fault.
What I'll do, Councilman Brewer, I'll consolidate it to one email and put both documents on one and send it to the body.
Was you finished, Councilwoman Atkins? Okay. Okay, Mr. Jenkins, can you continue and talk about the agreement with the Attorney General you were stating also?
Yes, so that agreement requires us to have a public hearing for public comment before the Common Council. And as I was saying, we wanted a date certain to have that. So that's why we wanted to bring it here first. We could organize and that date set in stone per se before we go through the requirements to get the notice out 3 days in advance. Because like I said, there were several parties that we have to notify. We wanted a date certain, and if we operate under the assumption that we're getting approved, like that we can set that date today, then the date we will request would be 9/21. That would give us time after today to get the notices together and get that taken care of. Beyond that, there's some. If I wanted to turn this over to AJ Bittner, but he had to leave at 7 o'clock, so he is not here. In his absence, I guess at this point we can either maybe push this down the line entirely for another 2 weeks at the next committee meeting, or if we could agree on setting the day between now and that date. There's more time for AJ Bittner to come back and answer any questions that are more specific to the Redevelopment Commission. He may have more background information on these properties.
Let me ask one question. I'm going to turn to Councilman Lay. So are you all going to bring these to us in separate orders? Because I know that was a request also, as you group them up, they'll be put in separate ordinances.
Yes, that's correct. So for now, the current list is at about 50, I believe. I think at the last minute, I think a few more were taken out that have already been passed at a prior ordinance like this, like maybe from 2 years ago. So I think the list is currently sitting at about 50, the one that Councilwoman Atkins forwarded to everyone.
Okay. Councilman Lay?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Have you sent to council the letter of agreement between the Attorney General and redevelopment?
So that is the email Councilwoman Atkins mentioned that I sent at 4:30 today. Yeah, so that is the agreement, and I can make sure that everyone has that as well.
I can't see it from where I am. What is the date for that agreement?
This agreement is March of 2007.
So you had the agreement since March, and you just now sending it to the council?
Well, this was March 2007. I think it took us some time to locate it. Like this is not the original copy, but it's something we got somewhere down the line. I can't speak too much to that.
Okay, but my understanding was the agreement should have been fairly early or later in time. I mean, we should have gotten it maybe in, I'm going to just pick a date, April of 2020 or April of 2021. You know, in the words, in the middle of a meeting, the whole issue of what we could do with it was based upon the agreement with the Attorney General.
Right. I believe at that time, maybe, I don't know if we had the agreement before us, and maybe there was a question at some point about what specifically we're required to do. And that may have been why they're here now instead of the window of time between the first time this appeared and now.
I'm not holding you to it, but the general impression, and maybe I was the only one, that this was a new agreement, not, you said 2007, right?
Yes, this is an old agreement that governs, it's been in place ever since the GUEA disbanded, and this agreement has been in place to govern how the properties are to be disposed of ever since that time.
Well, whoever indicated the agreement, I believe it's Mr. Reeves, but I'm not sure, so don't hold me to that. I was left with the impression it was going to be an agreement much later in time, because that we asked for the division since this council came aboard. And it's been so long now, I'm not sure. I think it was done in 2020. And then we were told they had to go back and get some kind of agreement from the Attorney General. Now you're telling me the agreement's been in existence for 15 years now.
Right. I can't say for sure. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll let Rodney speak to that. Attorney Cole.
Yeah, no, thank you. If I could, yeah, the issue that we had with the actual agreement was we weren't sure whether, we had originally thought we were going to bring all the properties forward. The council had stated that they wanted them in groups of 50, and it begged the question, well, based on the way that the agreement was written, was it proper to do them in large groups, in either wholesale or the groups of 50, or was this something that, should have been handled, on an individual basis? So either way, we went, we had a meeting with the Attorney General. We tried to get some clarification really from the Attorney General as to what would be the proper method to actually disperse some of these properties, and had some discussions with them about what we intended to do with the properties, the programs that were involved. They were very curious as to, the state of the properties, how quickly we would be getting rid of them, if there was any reversionary efforts that, in the event that the programs weren't being followed. So we'd had those conversations with the Attorney General, and essentially had gotten the all clear to proceed as originally planned. So that was really the holdup, is we wanted to make sure that we weren't, following along with, with our plan without having that clearance from the Attorney General, given the fact that they are a party to that agreement.
No, I understand that. Did you indicate to the Attorney General, the legislative body of this city, several have appeared before now, wanted to change the manner in which it is sent to us so we can make various decisions? I don't see why the Attorney General would object to that. So did you ask him that specific question in writing and tell him what we would like to do, and ask him to say yes or no as to that, as opposed to referring us back to something 2007? I came on the council 2020.
That's correct.
Matter of fact, I represent the council, I believe, somewhere back there.
Well,
I was the council attorney. I don't remember this.
We didn't get it reduced to writing. We had, I believe, 2 different conversations with members of the.
We'll ask him to reduce it to writing for the benefit of nobody. The council should get it as a whole, but said one person just really don't understand it, and I don't understand why he had modified to agree with the manner in which we want to do it, so that we can do a good job on all of this disbursement of the GUEA property. Because I was, in fact, I created the GUA that came here I was on the state board, 1985. So
We can,
see,
yeah, I
so
can
don't know
definitely.
why it all.
I can definitely request it, but what I was going to state is we did get the okay from the AG verbally that we would be able to proceed, with the disbursements as originally planned. But we can
But
I
do
can
you
absolutely.
read the 2007 plan?
Are all these properties still under redevelopment's possession at this time?
There haven't been any properties that have been dispersed since this, with under this new administration. They would have had to have come through this council, to get approval to do so. There may have been prior, and I don't know off the top of my head whether or not there had been other properties, GUEA ordinances that had been passed. I believe there may have been, but we just wanted to make sure that even if it had been done in the past, what we were still doing going forward was still going to be okay with the AG.
Okay. All right. Councilman Godwin?
Yeah, a couple questions. It'd be helpful on this list that I do see what do you mean by purchase? Like the last 15 have purchased under the program. That means you're gonna put them out for sale or?
I'm not sure on that one. Hold on, let me pull up the list too. I know what, I just want to make sure I know which one you're referring to. Purchase. So those would I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I believe those are being proposed to be packaged as part of a land assemblage for either a developer, if I'm not mistaken. They look very, very familiar, but ultimately those, if they're the two different programs. You have the Aetna Rehab 1 Get 2, and then the side lot program. Then at the bottom is purchase, so those would actually be sold.
Okay, and in answering Councilman Brewer's question, let me ask the question a little differently.
Well,
are any of the properties that you have now brought before us on this list, or that you anticipate bringing before us on future lists that together make up the total number of properties, is there any purchase agreement that has been executed or entertained regarding any of those said properties?
I don't believe so. I'm not familiar with any.
Okay. So with the Aetna Rehab Get 1, Get 2, these are properties you want to make part of that program. You're saying that none of these addresses are included in the marketing and other materials and discussions with prospective buyers.
I don't want to misspeak, but I mean, I don't have any of it in front of me right now, so I'd have to get back to you on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Any other council members? Okay, I would just look forward to us getting these put in separate ordinances and brought back before the council. I'll be happy to entertain them, and as they come before the full body and the president assign them to plan development, that we will go further with them. Any other questions by anyone? All right, thank everyone for joining. Everyone have a good night.